Hey folks, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and we've got another FURA knife for you today. One of those knives that doesn't have a name, doesn't have a model number, doesn't even have branding on it. FURA, get your act together. Start putting your name on your knives because people like to know what they're getting. People like to show their buddies, look at this cool knife. It's a FURA, but no, it doesn't say anything on it. A little too cheap on your brand. Stand up for your name, get your name, be proud. They don't realize the value of a brand name. It boggles my mind. Anyhow, this is what we've got today. We've got this copper colored knife. You can get it in two more colors. You can get it in just a flat kind of gray or in a blue, I believe. Let me double check this here. Yep, gray or blue or this copper color. It's sort of that classic candy bar shape. That's what I like to call this. It looks like a Kit Kat bar, sort of. It's a little bit thicker back here than there, but it's basically a long rectangle. Nothing spectacular, but it's not bad either. It's actually quite nice. It's got a nice pattern in here. And the flipper works very well, very smooth action. We've got ball bearings that work very well. We've got titanium handle scales. We've got a steel blade that they're calling D2. By the time I post this video, I will have tested the steel, and you'll see it on the screen if I believe this is probably D2 or not. I haven't done that test yet, so we'll find out later on. But I have sharpened the knife. The steel feels pretty good. It feels like it's a fairly hard steel. I can't say for sure. It's all subjective when I feel my hand, with rubbing across the stone, rubbing across, and how much, all that other stuff, the pressure and how quickly it cuts, all that stuff. It's all subjective, but it does seem like a fairly decent steel on here. If it's not D2, it's something pretty good for a budget knife. And this is definitely a budget knife. I'll talk about the price later on. Straight back blade, that's what I'm calling it. It's technically a very slight uplift right at the tip here, just barely, almost imperceptible. It looks like a significant upsweep because they put in a little swedge that's sort of that long, sort of a curved swedge. And so it's got the illusion of being very much upswept, but it's just a minuscule amount. And then we've got a almost straight back, but this is also upswept a little bit at the back. The bottom's flat and the top comes up at the back here a little bit. So this way is shaped like a smile. A very shallow smile, but this top edge is like a smile. I did one thing to change this knife already since I took it apart, take a look on the side, take the pictures and stuff. These back pillars, this open pillar construction, they're just smooth rounded. And on the other side, you've got your Torx. They were with the Torx side out on the face side, and then the smooth side was here on the working side. So I turned them around. I think it makes much more sense to have the smooth sides over here on the show side and then put all the screw heads over here. So we've got a Scandi grind stone wash with a satin bevel, nice full size, medium to full size folder, smooth action, easy to work, easy to carry, quite comfortable. So if you're interested in the full review on this guy, stick around. The first thing that I want to talk about is check out that pocket clip. Does it look like it's the same color as the body of the knife? Nope, it's not. And it's not just because of the finished texture, this being titanium and the pocket clip being steel. It is to the naked eye, it's even more of a dramatic color difference than it is here on the screen. At least on my LCD. I don't know how it's going to look on your screen. Everybody's LCDs are different. But it's also the pocket clip itself. Look at that thing. Does it look like it belongs on this knife? Everything is chiseled corners everywhere. And then the pocket clip has none of that. Everything on the pocket clip is rounded and, it's a very different look. The thing is, they did the same thing over here on this knife. This is a knife that I'll be reviewing fairly soon, probably next week. Same construction. And, you know, just a different blade and stuff. And it's got the same pocket clip. The color match is better this time, but again, you've got all these angles, and then this thing is just curves. Doesn't make sense to me. So we're done talking about the pocket clip. If you're going to be looking for this knife, if you're watching this video more than 30 days after I post it, and I'm posting it about the 22nd, 23rd, whatever, of January, something like that. So if you're watching in late February or March or April, the link in the description below won't take you to my referral. You'll still find this knife at GearBest, but I won't get any referral fee for it. So if you really like this knife and you want to buy it and you're watching it that late, find one of my newest videos, and you'll see one of them at the very end of this video. I'll put links on the screen, and one of those will be one of my latest videos, and hopefully it's a GearBest video. Go to GearBest and then search for one of these numbers that I put on the screen, because that's the SKU number. I'll put the color of the knife and the SKU number that it is, and that'll make it easy for you to find the knife if you want to find it again, because there is no model name. There is no brand number. Like I talked about all this stuff in the introduction, so let's not do it again. Rockwell hardness of D2, if it is D2, is usually around 60, give or take a little bit. The frame lock locks up very well. I'll show you a picture. Actually, probably don't even need a close-up picture of that. Look at that. It's got a really good lockup, nice and early, lots of room for wear. And then I'll give you a close-up picture of, you know, you can just barely see that lock bar insert right there, so that you'll have steel touching the blade. And the lock bar insert's made very well. It fits in nice and snugly. It's got an over travel stop, so when I push this forward, it gets stopped in there. And it's not the pocket clip that's stopping it, but there's a little over travel stop built in. So that's a really good thing, well made. Blade alignment when it's closed is very good. Take a look at that. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There you go. Isn't that good? That's very good. It's not perfect, but sure is good. There's no blade play. Side to side, up and down. It locks up very, very well. You've got your stop pin right there, and it's a nice beefy stop pin that just sits in place. Well, it doesn't just sit in place. I took it out of there, and they've got a nice press fit in there. So the one side, it just sort of sits in place, and the other side, it's press fit in. So when you open this up, chances are very low that your stop pin's going to go flying somewhere. So you won't really lose it that easily. And now for these open the pillars here for the back, notice there's no lanyard hole. These pillars can't really be tied on. The knife gets too close to them. But what we have here is we've got a post. That's the side that's rounded. And then there's a small sleeve over top of it to make it look thicker. And that's how they put it together. Now, here's what I mentioned in the introduction. And this is what they're doing on all of them. From the factory, they're coming with the torque screws facing up. I think this looks much nicer. You might disagree. You might agree. Who knows? It's very easy to turn it around. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like. We've got a stone wash on the flats here. So they stone wash the whole blade. And you can see how nice that looks. The stone wash is actually quite nice. And then you've got the satin grind, and you can see some of the grind lines down here. And the swedge also has some grind lines in it. Really nice sharpener's choil or Spanish choil, whatever you want to call it right there. The angle of the grind was 20 degrees in most places. On this side here near the tip, it was more like 25. All of a sudden from there to the tip, it also went really steep fast. Obviously, it was ground by hand. And so then I touched it up on my TS Prof, and I wasn't paying attention. I hadn't aligned my stone properly, and my stone was sliding up over the end and coming up. And that's why I've got all these little micro scratches. Let's see if I can get them. There's a good angle. That's why I've got all those micro scratches right there. Now, I plan on keeping this knife, so I probably won't be doing too much about that in the short term, but that's not too difficult to clean up if you end up getting that kind of thing. You basically have to take some sandpaper, fine sandpaper and just sort of redo the grind lines on here, on this side, and just sort of clean it up. Thankfully, it's almost on the same angle, so it's not going to be hard to hide those. One other weird thing that you see here is this right here. You see this cutout for your thumb, and it looks like it's cut out perfectly for a thumb stud knife, but it's not a thumb stud knife. Is it handy? It's handy in the left hand when you're using it. No problem. It's quite comfortable having the finger come in a little bit. Not really needed. But on the right hand, which most of you guys are right-handed, it's not much of an advantage having that cut out there like that. So, but that's just a weird thing that I saw there that kind of feels weird. You've got a nice bevel around everything. So that's really nice. And then these lines ground in here. I'll show you a close-up picture of these. And instead of looking like milled out lines, in the picture, it's going to look like the lines are raised. Isn't that a cool optical effect? Yeah, I thought it was kind of neat. The flipper has jimping on it, and the flipper works really well. Just to light switch it, just pull back, and it just goes out like lightning speed. The detent is pretty good. It's a little bit on the soft side, but it's pretty good. So it's really easy to flip open this knife. You can do the push method, but you have to pull back just a little bit because it's almost flat. Thankfully, it's just slightly behind the pivot point. So notice my finger did come back a tiny bit. You can't just go straight down. You do have to do a tiny bit back when you go to do it, the push method. And that's about it for looking at. Let's do the dimensions next. Cutting edge, 8.63 centimeters, 3.4 inches. Blade length, 8.82 centimeters, 3.47 inches. The blade thickness, 3.61 millimeters, that's 0.142 inches. The blade depth at its thickest point, close to right where I'm touching it basically, 2.03 centimeters, that's 0.8 of an inch. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, 0.65 millimeters, that's 0.0255. A little bit thicker than I'd like it to be. I'd like it to be, thinner steel right there. The handle length is 12 centimeters, or 4.73 inches. The handle depth, and I measured it back here at the maximum spot, 2.4 centimeters, that's 0.95 of an inch. Grip area, so behind this flipper tab here to the end of the handle here is 10 centimeters, that's 3.94 inches. And the handle thickness, not counting this pocket clip, is 1.25 centimeters, that's 0.493 of an inch. The total length of the knife with the blade deployed is 20.85 centimeters, which equals oops, I forgot to do the math. It's on the screen right here. How much does this knife weigh? It's 126 grams, which is 4.5 ounces. So a knife just over 8 inches at 4.5 ounces is not bad at all. The sizes that you have here fits anybody with a medium-sized hand and up. I've got large hands that border on extra large. Look how much extra room I've got there. Let's widen the screen here a little bit. There's all kinds of grips that you can grip this knife with that are quite comfortable. You can get your thumb around the end here. I tend to have this seam on my thumb come right in at that spot. Very solid. And if I grip it tight, there's room for more hand there. So big hand can fit in there. And somebody with smaller hands, of course, you can use a knife like this. Just about any grip you want to grip it with. Sometimes you might be cutting like this, doing some fine cutting. Very comfortable. No hot spots, except for sometimes this part of the pocket clip right here, that does come out a little bit high, but it's not sharp or anything, so that doesn't really matter. It doesn't bother. You can just barely see on this shot right here. I didn't notice it before. See that little tab right there inside on the lock bar arm? That is the over travel stop. That's what stops the lock bar from coming out further. I'll show you a shot of the inside of the knife right now so you can take a look at that over travel stop. Take a look at the washers. It's a nice knife. The price point for this knife, $34.10 American, plus about $1.80 for shipping. In Canadian dollars, it's $43.30 plus $2.20 for shipping, or is it $2.80? $2.30 for shipping. In euros, it's 28.42 euros, plus about 1.5 euros for shipping. And pounds, it's 25.28 pounds, plus about 1.34 pounds for shipping. What do I think of this knife? Fit and finish, it's good. Is it better than good? Well, certainly not excellent, but I think maybe it is a little bit better than good. I don't like that I had to sort of repair the grind, the final grind there, but that's not hard to do. Everybody should be able to know how to sharpen your knives, and so you can fix things like that, as long as you don't make stupid little goofs like I did right there. What do I like best about this knife? Action. The action of this knife is very good. It steel ball bearings, but they work really well. You probably noticed when I showed you the inside, you've got the race rings, so you don't have the ball bearings running on this titanium, which is good. So it'll wear nice and slowly that way. It's solid. It's easy to carry. It does sit a little high in the pocket. Let me show you that. So it slides in your pocket quite easily. Sits there just fine. It is a right side pocket clip only, tip up. And so you've got about 1 inch of the knife sticking out, a little over 2.5 centimeters. Not quite 1 inch, actually, just under. So I wish they could find a way to make that pocket clip up higher, maybe putting in a proper pocket clip that sort of suits and matches it. Now, again, that's my biggest beef. That's not too bad, especially if you got the gray colored knife, or better yet, the blue colored knife with the blue pocket clip, and you're wearing blue jeans. It's just going to meld in there, and people aren't going to see it that easily, you know, even though it is, you know, sticking out a fair bit. How sharp was the knife from the factory? The knife was actually fairly sharp from the factory, but because the grind was messed up, I really took care of it, and I've resharpened it. I haven't sharpened it perfectly. I just did a pretty, you know, run-of-the-mill kind of sharpening on it just to get it all even everywhere. And it's very sharp from the tip down to the base. You can just go straight down, and it cuts quite well. Trying to cut, holding it at one spot on the blade and going slowly, that really shows if the knife is sharp or not. Let's try cutting something a little more robust. We've got some USB cable here, and it just cuts through that stuff. No problem. It's really easy to cut through, you know, thicker stuff like this. You've got 4 wires in there, and then you've got some metal sheathing in there as well. And, you know, it's just easy to, well, here, I'll show you that metal sheathing now. There's all of this. You've got that wire, and then you've got this foil as well. And then you've got the wires, and, you know, it just cuts through them like they're not there. No problem at all. Really good edge, and being at 20 degrees, you know, it's a nice, strong, durable edge. And it was mostly 20 degrees per side to start with, and that's a perfect EDC kind of knife. So there you go. What do you think of this video? What do you think of this knife? Hopefully we get it at a sale price sometime soon. Watch my Facebook channel. If you don't know my Facebook channel, just look for The Canadian Cutting Edge, and you'll find it on Facebook. If you go facebook.com/The Canadian Cutting Edge, all one word, you'll find it there as well. And I will post when I see this thing go on sale. Don't know if it will, don't know if it won't. Just, we tend to have flash sales at GearBest every once in a while. So thank you so much for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, all that other great stuff that you guys do. Thank you especially to my Patreon supporters. I just got another Patreon supporter at $5 a month yesterday. I really appreciate that, guys. You guys really make a world of difference for me. Remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.